Okay, guys, welcome to LJG Sports. So, should the San Antonio Spurs keep Chris Paul? Now, as a Spurs fan, if you watched a lot of the games that the Spurs played last year, I try to watch most of them when I could. I would say overall I watched more, for sure more than half. I try to watch as many as I can, like I said. And the thing with Chris Paul is when we first signed him in the offseason of last year, I liked it because it was adding some veteran leadership in the Spurs organization who desperately needed it. You know, we didn't have anyone that much older. We have a very young core of everybody. Victor, Stephon Castle, the rookie coming in. We had guys like Trey Jones. Even Zach Collins wasn't that much older when we first had him. He wasn't that old when we had him. And the thing was, I liked him coming in. I liked guys like Harrison Barnes coming in, just bringing that steady hand to a team that definitely needed it. And I felt like he did help Victor and the Spurs a lot. The question is, should we bring him back for next year? And for me, the first thing that comes up with this question is that from seeing a lot of the playing that Chris Paul had with us last season, there was a lot of frustrating moments, and it is not necessarily his fault in the sense that I thought he played pretty well. You know, he didn't score a lot, which was you would hope a little more scoring from your point guard or from any starter. But you know, he had a great assist to turnover ratio. He didn't turn the ball over a lot, obviously. He had about 7 or 8 assists per game, which is really good. And again, he was just a steady hand for the team overall. Him and Harrison Barnes did looks like gave the Spurs a lot of veteran leadership coming into San Antonio. Now, with that being said, there were some times where, like I said, it was frustrating, and Chris Paul didn't play necessarily the worst, but one thing that has always been, at least not I would say always been, but has been recently a problem for Chris Paul is he's not a great defender. You know, he's getting older, he's undersized, he's not the best defender to have out there. The other thing is, when Chris Paul was on the court with De'Aaron Fox, when we traded for De'Aaron Fox, that just made no sense to me because I felt like he would be so much better on the bench. Not only did the whole 2 point guards thing work, I think maybe the Spurs were doing that on purpose to tank the pick. Who knows? Or maybe the Spurs gave Chris Paul a promise when they were signing him that you're going to start or that you're going to get X amount of minutes, because Chris Paul, one of the things he was really looking for this year was to just play. He wants to play, and I think that was a big part of it. Now, there's pros and cons to keeping Chris Paul. Let me know down below, as a Spurs fan, what do you think the Spurs should do? For me personally, it's very simple. I see Chris Paul as a great asset to a young team trying to contend for a play-in playoff spot next year with one of the best up-and-coming players in the league, someone who was voted by unanimous NBA players. Over 50% of them voted will be the face of the league in 5 years, in Victor Wembanyama. I think Chris Paul would be great to have next year. I believe Victor Wembanyama and De'Aaron Fox have already voiced their opinion on how they would love to have Chris Paul back. And I think so too, but there has to be nuance with this. There has to be a caveat with this. I don't think he should start. I don't even know if he should be the backup point guard. I would love to have him just on the team, being that mentor, that coach, maybe get him some minutes here and there, maybe in certain situations if you need a good free throw shooter, if you need a good ball handler, put him in there. Is this a dream scenario? Is it kind of wishy-washy? Possibly. Because I think if Chris Paul comes back, if he will want to play, at least as not a sixth-man role, but coming off the bench, playing for the second unit. And like I said, if things shake out to where he has to be that second unit guy, I'm not totally mad at it. But for sure, he should not start. And for sure, I don't think we should be giving him money that is worth anything. Obviously, he should get a little something, but I think over $10 million, and no, for sure not. I think this deal we had him on last year was about $10 million. I would say I would love to pay him $5 million a year, but being realistic, I don't think he would take that much. But I don't think Spurs should pay him no more than $10 million. He should not be on the starting lineup. And that's my take. I would love to get Chris Paul back to be, again, that mentor, that leader in the locker room for the Spurs. Again, he's already played 1 year with them. He's been with a lot of the guys for 1 year, and just bringing that whole group back would be nice. Do I think that's the most likely scenario? No. If bringing Chris Paul means that he's going to start, hell no. If bringing Chris Paul means we're going to pay him more than 10 million, 10 million per year, again, no. If bringing him back means signing him to a multi-year deal, again, no, especially with his age. He's just getting older, and that's just it. Very impressive of him for playing every single game, all 82 games last year as a 40-year-old. It was really spectacular. I believe he set a record for that. But yeah, I think Chris Paul, in a dream scenario, I would love to have him come back, but in all actuality, I don't think he should come back. I just think the way this roster is going, there's not enough room for guys like Chris Paul. And that's it's just a Chris Paul thing. There's players some young talent we have on this team, even some guys that were considered once our most prized prospects coming up. I believe they might be pushed out of playing time. Like this, let me put it like this. If we are very conservative with free agency and the draft, obviously we drafted at 8 and 14. The Spurs have, I believe, 10 roster spots or 10 guys under contract next year already. So if we add, let's say, 3 more people via this upcoming draft with the 8th pick, with the 14th pick, and then a second-round pick. I believe we only have 1 second-round pick next year. This year, excuse me. So the thing is, you hope that the 8th pick can be a starter, if not a 6th-man type of guy, and then your 14th pick, again, hopefully you can be a second-unit guy. And then the second-round pick, it will be a higher second-round pick, but hopefully he can just make like the 3rd string, and he can play in the G League sometimes, but he can be that other guy. So we have 10 guys under contract, and then we have the 3 guys coming in via draft. So we really only have 2 roster spots available. And looking at the 10 guys we have and the 3 guys we're bringing in the draft, I don't know if there's any room for guys to get real minutes like that. So assuming we bring everyone obviously on the roster stays on the roster, we have De'Aaron Fox, Devin Vassell, Harrison Barnes, Keldon Johnson, Victor Wembanyama, Stephon Castle, Jeremy Sohan, Malachi Branham, Blake Wesley, and Julian Champagnie under contract for next year. De'Aaron Fox is definitely starting. You would think because Devin Vassell is making so much and they gave him that big extension, he will be starting. That's your backcourt right there in Devin Vassell and De'Aaron Fox. You have Victor Wembanyama, which is the most obvious starting. He'll be your center. You have then guys like Harrison Barnes, Keldon Johnson, Stephon Castle, Jeremy Sohan, Malachi Branham, Blake Wesley, and Julian Champagnie. You would think one of Harrison Barnes, Julian Champagnie, or Jeremy Sohan definitely will start. If not, 2 of them. And if only one of them is starting, then you would think the 8th pick is going to take that spot. So let's assuming the 8th spot is good enough to start, and let's just make it simple this way. You have De'Aaron Fox, Devin Vassell, you have the 8th pick, you have Jeremy Sohan, and you have Victor Wembanyama. Boom, that's your starting 5. You have guys on the bench, Harrison Barnes, you have Keldon Johnson, you have Stephon Castle, you have Malachi Branham, Julian Champagnie, and Blake Wesley. Those are 6 guys who I think can play that second unit, plus the 14th pick. So there's 7 guys competing for that second unit. And you could obviously say, like, Malachi and Blake Wesley, they're going to be the obvious 3rd stringers in this scenario. But I don't know, depending on team fit. And I feel like Blake showed us that he can give us real minutes, real defensive ability, and just adding that dimension of offense where he's so fast that he can drive into the lane and then kick it out real quick. And then guys like Malachi Branham, who I didn't feel like got enough playing time last year, enough of a chance to prove himself. I feel like he should have gotten more minutes. A guy who can be a spot-up shooter, who can be that secondary ball handler in the offense, is a great pick-and-roll offensive player. He's another guy to look to play maybe get serious minutes on the second unit. So there's really no room for anyone else. Could we upgrade? Yeah, but we could also play conservative and just stick with our guns, stick with the guys we have right now, and let them play it out, get better, grow, and build their chemistry together. And I think that's what the Spurs should do. Anyway, let me know if you disagree, agree down in the comments below.